These look like they could be a cousin to Tombow, maybe a second cousin once removed. Hi everybody, today I am taking a look at the Lemome. I'm looking at these dual brush pens. They also call them sketch markers. I got them on Amazon, as I've gotten a lot of things on Amazon. I think these were recommended to me by one of you as well, just to take a look at. They are $9.99 with Prime shipping for a pack of 24. I've been looking at a lot of inexpensive markers lately, and these are another one. I would say that the 24 markers for $9.99 is still more expensive per marker than, say, the Shuttle Art ones I looked at last week, or the Scribbles That Matter, or the Oohoo. But if you want less markers or whatever, this could be a good price point at the very least. And it's still half the price for twice the markers of Tombow dual brush pens. If you're looking for something inexpensive, this could be an option if they don't suck, which we're going to take a look at now. So I got these on Amazon with Prime shipping. According to the website, these have 24 ultra bright colors, non-toxic, acid-free, odorless, water-based ink. They're dual tipped with a brush tip and a 0.4 millimeter extra fine, which is the same size extra fine tip as all of the three other sets I just mentioned. Juicy ink, standard color matching. It doesn't say anything about not bleeding, but I'll check that anyway. And that they're meant for painting, highlighting, sketching, writing, or Bible journaling. And the caps were designed to prevent from being lost. The packaging that it came with is a plastic kind of clamshell situation, which is taped closed, so I need to take care of that. And then inside the clamshell is like a ridged thing to keep them in order, I guess. Here's what they look like. They actually look similar, not entirely similar, but akin to the Tombow, which is funny because a lot of the other inexpensive ones I've looked at have looked very similar to each other, but this one actually kind of looks similar. It's shorter than a Tombow, but it, like I said, like a second cousin once removed. So the cap does not have a clip, but it has a section that sticks out so that when your pen rolls over, it stops. I'm assuming that's the whole design to keep your pens from getting lost situation. There is no color name or number. It just says Lemome sketch marker with the brush tip on one end, the fine tip on the other end, and then the caps are colored to match the situation. So the cap snaps on. It's not super satisfying, but it does snap on, so I feel like it's not going to dry out. The butt end cap is a lot more satisfying to put on. So taking the cap off on the end, whoa. Okay, so this does not stay very well on the end. If you barely touch it, it pops off. Here is the tip. It is nice and fat, a little bit chunkier than the Tombow tip. The pen is nice and long. It feels like plasticky and a little bit light. There's a sharp edge here where the cap goes on, so if you hold it close to the edge like I do, you may wind up having that give you discomfort on your fingers, so I would suggest holding it a little further back so that this doesn't dig into your callus. I like this tip better than the other inexpensive markers I've tried. It's got a little bit more flexibility. It's not quite so stiff towards the base of the pen. It's still a little bit stiffer there than like a Tombow. Tombow's got a little bit more flexibility. And one thing I'll notice with my heavy hand is that it does warp the tip a little bit when I press, but if you go in the other direction, it moves it kind of right back into place. It does go down very juicy, and on this paper, it is definitely bleeding through. I just keep writing with it because I kind of like the feel of it. Let's look at the other side. Okay, notice here I tried to write and it already was kind of scrapey. The tip has already bent. Fine tip is it's a little bit drier and very kind of fragile, at least so far. Let's test dry time. Very, very light smearing, so they dry pretty quickly. Let's see about blending. Ooh, these blend nicely. Oh, that looks nice. Yeah, these blend, at least these colors are blending really beautifully, comparatively speaking to some of the other ones I've tried. Okay, as usual, I am going to create a swatch page in my bullet journal. I will check to see how they bleed, and yeah, we'll see what the color selection is like etc., etc. I'm going to pause my swatching for a second to give you the heads up that this packaging makes it extremely difficult to get the pens out. I'm having to like bend it to pop them out, and I'm trying to keep them in order because they're not numbered or named, and I'm already finding that like these two don't match the caps, so I want to keep them in order so I can see what swatches correspond to each pen, and this packaging is awkward to get them out. I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. These colors, the pink and the like purpley color, didn't blend as well as the other ones did, but they laid down pretty. Looking at the back here, when I blended the colors, it started to bleed through. So when you layer them, they bleed through, but otherwise they just shadowed. The color selection is lovely. Their claim of having bright colors is right. Like these are very bright colors. The only one that's not super bright is this first kind of peachy tone, which is actually a little bit darker than the cap itself. These two colors were the two that really did not completely match the cap, although it mostly just had to do with being more saturated. But in general, these are nice, vibrant colors. The like nib of the pen, I think, might be a little easier for people to get the hang of than a Tombow, although I will say that getting a nice clean upstroke can sometimes be a little bit difficult. There's not as much differentiation between the heavy stroke and the light stroke. It's a little floppier than that. The other thing I will say that I really like about these pens is that the fine tip pen is also bright. There are some sets of pens that I have reviewed recently that have the same 0.4 millimeter fine tip where it's either dried out or it writes, but a lot of the colors are too pale for it to be useful to me. Every single color here would be useful to me with the exception of potentially the yellow, but even this like peachy color still shows up. Like they're bright. I just wish that the nib wasn't so bendy. Like I had trouble with multiple colors of the nib starting to bend down. And notice when I wrote on the testing that some of them, they weren't dry, but they also didn't write cleanly. There was some scratchiness. So I wish the tip itself was better, but the colors and the saturation of the tip is really nice. So that's my thought on that. Actually, looking at these colors, I think the only place where it feels like there might be a little bit of redundancy is in this orange area, but they are different enough from each other where I think you could blend them really nicely. Same with the greens. There's a couple that are close together, but after doing this, I think it would be nice to have two greens or two whatever colors that are close enough together where the blend works really well. I will say that trying to blend these started to shred the paper a little bit. Just wanted to give you the heads up. And this is my Scribbles That Matter journal. Overall, I think that if you're looking to learn how to brush letter and you don't want to put out a big chunk of money, I might actually recommend these over any of the other inexpensive brush markers I've talked about recently, mainly because the tip is easier to work with. The three inexpensive ones I've looked at in the most recent past, the Scribbles That Matter, the Oohoo, and the Shuttle Art, all have this tip that's like flexible, but then also super firm, and it's kind of awkward. This one feels like a slightly easier to work with Tombow, and the colors are actually very reminiscent of Tombow too in terms of being nice and bright. And for $10 for 24, you can get plenty of markers to practice with before you go for a bigger set. I'm just glad that these worked out. I hate being disappointed by products, and these didn't disappoint me. I wouldn't say they're my favorite markers in the world. Am I going to get a shit ton of use out of them? Probably not. That's because I own about 1 million different markers. But in terms of budget options for people looking to hand lettering, these may be one of my go-to brands from now on. Coming up in the month of October, I will not be doing any reviews because it will be a plan as you go month where I'm posting almost every day showing you how I plan. Reviews will kick back in November, so you got some time to let me know in the comments what kind of pens you'd like me to take a look at in advance of that. So let me know what you're thinking. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.